So in this video, we want to go over finding the slope of a secant line, which is something that I think you probably already know how to do. We just want to review it fairly quickly. So let's just quickly go over what a secant line is. So if you have a graph f of x, so here the green graph is my f of x. If you have a graph f of x, and on that graph you have two distinct points, x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, all the secant line is the line that contains or passes through those 2 points. So a line, this guy, a line that intersects a graph in 2 points is a secant line for that graph. So this right here is the secant line for the graph of f of x that contains the points x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, and y sub 2. And what we want to do is just talk quickly about how to calculate the slope of a secant line. Well, all a secant line is a line, so we just use the formula that we're accustomed to using for the slope of a line. The slope of a line m is just equal to y2 minus y1, the difference between the outputs, divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1, the difference between the function input. So it's the ratio of difference in function output to difference in function input. So this gives us a generic formula for the slope of a line. And then if you happen to know a couple of points explicitly, so these are generic points, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. If you know a couple of specific points, let's turn off some of these guys and erase some of this mess real quickly. So if you know a couple of specific points, so let's take off the generic points maybe, the text, we'll hide that for a minute and turn on a couple of points. So here I have the point 2, 4 and the point negative 1, 2. You could say, what's the slope of the secant line that contains those 2 points? And then we would just be looking for the slope of the line right here, the secant line here, that's passing through those points. And in this case, so this secant line that passes through 2, 4, and negative 1, negative 2, we know that one way to calculate the slope of that secant line is just to do the difference between the outputs. So output of 4 minus output of negative 2, so 4 minus negative 2, over input of 2 minus, what's the other input? The other input's negative 1. So this is something we've done before. So 4 minus negative 2 is 6 over 2 minus negative 1 is 3. So we get a slope of 2. So the slope of this specific secant line is 2. But it turns out that this method for calculating the slope of the line for calculus isn't going to be useful. So in the next video, what we're going to need to do is reconceptualize how to calculate the slope of a secant line using a different technique that's going to be amenable to calculus.